But like, I got emotional seeing that person get emotional, because if this means nothing, then like, what the hell are we all doing? Hello and welcome to Baseball Barbacast, the only baseball podcast in the world who can't wait to watch Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s dad play baseball. I'm Jake Mintz. That's Jordan Shusterman. Wow.
Dude, I'm so excited to talk about Vladdy. This was a wonderful weekend of baseball. It is good to see you. It is Monday. I was up late watching the Mariners hang on for dear life. Wrote some words about it. Now I'm going to talk some words about it. Jake, you are in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where you had that weird off day as soon as the series begins. We're going to get to the National League on the back half of this episode of Baseball Barbacast, but we're going to begin north of the border. Our opener is the Yankees getting demolished.
The New York Yankees are currently down by the score of 23-8 on aggregate over the first two ball games. Two separate obliterations. To be frank, the 13-7 score in Game 2 does not really showcase what the energy of the afternoon was, but we'll begin with Game 1. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. opens the series with a solo home run in the bottom of the first inning off Luis Gil. Alejandro Kirk cranks 2 home runs. There's a Aaron Judge strikeout with the bases loaded and nobody out. Louis Varland is throwing 101 out of the Jays' pen. Toronto piles on late against Luke Weaver, who has another stinky outing. They win 10-1. Game 2, Max Fried on the bump against Trey Yesavage, rookie hurler for the Toronto Blue Jays, making just his 4th career start in the major leagues. And Yesavage is dominant. He does not allow a hit through 5 1/3 innings of work, 11 strikeouts. Just one of the more, like, we've had some unbelievable pitching performances already this postseason, right? I would say the first Skubal game, Crochet, Schlittler, but Yesavage, what he did yesterday with really 2 pitches, the fastball and the split, was remarkable. Blue Jays get a bizarre Ernie Clement homer early off Max Fried. They pour a couple more on against him in the 3rd inning. They're up 5-0 in the 4th, and then break it open. Got my Baltimore accent. Break it open with a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. grand slam in the 5th inning off of Will Warren, and they end up winning 13-7 as the series heads to the Bronx. And the Blue Jays, they are in the driver's seat, which in Canada is also on the left side of the car.
Let's begin with the Blue Jays triumph. And there is a lot to get to here before we talk about how bad the Yankees looked and what was maybe surprising and what wasn't. Let's talk about what went well. So in Game 1, I mean, first of all, Kirk, what a season for him. He is one of the most underrated players in baseball for sure. He is a tremendous defender. He is clearly a plus hitter for a catcher. He finished the season with a look at the guy, right? This is one of the best players in baseball. Okay, that's a fact. Okay, I know it's hard to believe. Your casual Yankee fan friend who hasn't watched them play the Blue Jays in the postseason and doesn't watch the regular season, like, this guy's kicking our ass. Yeah, he is. He is fantastic. He finished the season with a 2-homer game in Game 162. He starts the postseason with the 2-homer game against the Yankees, and he's just an awesome player. So that was very cool to see Kirk. The other cool thing about Kirk, and we bring Vlad Jr. back into this, is that, and I wrote a little bit about this in my Game 1 recap, is that Kirk and Vlad are the 2 guys, along with Bo Bichette, who we know is injured, who have been on the 3 postseason teams that got swept since 2020, right? We've talked about this, 2020, 2022, 2023. The Blue Jays getting swept in those 3 wildcard rounds. Vlad had gone 3 for 22 in those games. He had that very memorable Toot Bland against the Twins where he got picked off at second. And it was like, those were the Vlad moments. It was a collective failure, of course. It's not like we were thinking about Vlad as like some choke artist. the dude's still 26 and he wasn't doomed. But for Vlad, and then for Kirk, for these guys who did experience these losses with the Blue Jays in the postseason, for them to show up big time in Game 1 was a huge deal. And then for Vlad in particular, which is really what I focused on writing about Game 1, of course, he delivers an even bigger swing in Game 2, which is just like, this was it. This is what we've been building towards. These are swings more than a decade in the making, if not even longer, since he signed with the Blue Jays 10 years ago as one of the most celebrated amateurs of all time, to live up to the hype, to clearly become an MVP caliber hitter, to go through the ups and downs individually and collectively. And then earlier this year, we were like, is a moment like this ever going to be possible? Are we preparing for his last season as a Blue Jay? And even if he does stay around, when is he going to be in the postseason again? And here he is, man. He sure is in the postseason, and he has been absolutely raking over these first few games. And for Vlad Jr., last thing I'll say about him is, before I kick it back to you, is just like, I think about him in the context of his two Dominican homies, Juan Soto and Fernando Tatis Jr. They all signed in that same class 10 years ago. They've all taken these very different paths with very different teams to get here. And we've already, Soto and Tatis are already out. And we're not going to get to watch them in the postseason. Soto, of course, has had his moments. Tatis, we're still kind of waiting for those postseason moments. But now it's Vlad's turn, and the Blue Jays are in command. And if they keep rolling, we're going to get to see a lot more swings like this. And I am very excited for that to be the case.
The Dominican player that I was thinking about was Devers, because when you look at the Red Sox, right, and how the whole series against the Yankees, you're like, man, they could really use one more bat. And then you have Vlad, who's sticking around, presumably, until Buster Posey trades for him in 4 years or whatever. Like that's what the money's
Devers
for.
a couple years older, but it's a good point. Yeah,
I understand.
Obviously, with Tatis and Soto, those three are like linked forever. Yeah. But no, it's true. It's true. This is the guy. This is, as you tweeted, this is why you pay the man.
This is it. Like they gave him a $500 million contract, and now it's not paid off already, but that swing in Game 2 is what, like $30 million worth of like that was amazing.
Maybe if they win the World Series, I mean, it's certainly going to feel that way. It's hard to quantify that, but it is such a reminder too, where it's like, oh, but his WAR isn't that high. Oh, how much is he really worth? It's like, who cares? You get to this point, you need a dude that can hit the ball over the fence in a huge moment and look cool doing it. That's Vlad Jr., baby.
And he's when his at bats are good, like when he's locked in and he's taking good at bats, it's so he is so dangerous, right? What I have enjoyed about it so far this postseason is like he really has been floating as the best like hitter in the second tier, right? Of hitters, or the worst in the top tier, right? But really the best in the second best tier. Like he's not quite at he's not Soto, right? We've said this a million times. He's not Soto, but through these first two games, he has looked Soto-y, where you like have to think about the presence of Rafael Devers the entire way through the lineup in the same way that you do, with Aaron Judge or Ohtani or, locked in Schwarber or whatever. I would now like to talk about Game 2 and Trey Yesavage. Well, sorry. Kevin Gausman, very good in Game 1. Kind of like very important for the Blue Jays to win the Kevin Gausman versus Luis Heel game. That was not shocking, right? That's a game the Yankees probably they did not pin their hopes on that. However, the Max Fried against guy making his fourth big league start game, I think there was maybe higher expectations. And I think it's worth telling, the Trey Yesavage story from the beginning. So he goes to East Carolina University, and he is really good there. We interview him at the draft combine last summer, which is preposterous. Gets taken by the Blue Jays in the first round, I believe 20th overall. And he starts this season, 21 years old, starts this season as a member of the Dunedin Blue Jays. I wrote about this, that he made his first start of the season in front of 327 people in the Florida State League.
Great detail.
And
it was probably fewer than that, if we're being honest.
I went back and watched some of the clips from the broadcast. I could count 21 non-team employees or scouts pictured behind the dish in the sections that were on camera. And he was pretty bad that day. He walked 6 hitters. He walked 6 Jupiter Hammerheads at Roger Dean Chevrolet Stadium in Jupiter, Florida. He was not sharp. And then less than 6 months later, he is dominating the New York Yankees in a postseason game. He appeared for all 5 affiliates. I guess, is the big league team an affiliate? I guess so. He played in low A, high A, double A, triple A, and in the big leagues this year. And he said something during the press conference that really struck me, which is like, I've met the whole organization, right? And so when you have Trey Yesavage and you compare him with Vlad and Bo and Kirk, right? Like Vlad and Bo and Kirk have obviously been there for longer and have lived this life in the big leagues as a Blue Jay, but no person except like the GM has a better, more comprehensive understanding of the Toronto Blue Jays as an institution and the minor league system than Trey Yesavage. He's played on every team.
Right. At least in this current moment.
In this current moment. Yeah. Like, and I think that is a very, it's obviously a different dynamic, but it's so interesting. He's like, yes, I have thrown to like 14 different catchers this year. I know all the pitching coaches in the organization, and here he is in the big leagues dominating. And let's talk about how he did it, right? It is a unique look. There has been so much written over the last couple of years about, fastball shape and fastball angle. We took something called vertical attack angle, which is the angle through which the ball passes the strike zone, and how the Spencer Striders, Alec Vessias of the world are trying to create this flat attack angle where the ball is rising and stays on plane. What Trey Yesavage's splitter is doing is like the opposite, right? It is creating as steep a vertical attack angle as possible, which when you are an outlier in any regard, it is very difficult for hitters to square it up because they have literally never seen anything like this before. Yesavage made 3 starts during the regular season. None of them were against the Yankees. The Yankees were not able to prepare for Yesavage because the super fancy high-tech hit tracks device they have does not travel on the road. And they went straight from beating the Red Sox in Game 3 to getting on a bird to fly to Toronto. And so the novelty of Trey Yesavage, not to take anything away from him, certainly contributed to how dominant he was against the Yankees in Game 2.
Yeah, 100%. I think that those words, the outlier, that's really, I think, what has been clear in pitching development. And not that you can't just create good shapes and create good pitches if you have a normal arm angle and normal release, because clearly that happens too. But if you're different, and there aren't, think about how many pitchers teams have now. I mean, they're churning through so many different arms. Like, you would think you've seen almost every kind of arm by this point, but this is a different one. He is as over the top as it gets in the big leagues. And to combine that with the splitter that you mentioned, it is special. And I think it's also an interesting contrast to what we just watched with Cam Schlittler, right? Because what Schlittler did, and what maybe he will get the chance to do again in Game 4, although we'll see about that, is essentially just overwhelm you with velocity, right? It was not necessarily a secret of what his attack plan was going to be if you were the Red Sox. Now, they also had not seen him, so there was a level of discomfort there and unfamiliarity, but he was just overwhelming them. Trey Yesavage was doing that, but he wasn't throwing that hard. He was just throwing in a way that was so unusual, and he was executing that pitch as he has since he basically broke out his sophomore year at East Carolina, where it was like, oh my God, this delivery and this pitch is so weird and so good, and he has enough velocity for it to combine to be absolutely dominant, which is what he was in college. And if you're wondering why in the world does he go 20th overall, in some cases it is because he is weird, and because he did have some injury issues that I don't need to get into now, but that is why teams were scared off, because sometimes, teams at this point, it's easy to be like, oh, well, he's different. It's great. We love it. It's winning us a postseason game. It's also the kind of thing that a lot of teams are going to be like, is this going to hold up? Is he going to be able to do this for 200 innings? Is this actually going to fool major league hitters all the time? Well, that doesn't matter right now. And the Blue Jays were correct in being proactive in promoting him and realizing that he was one of their best options. Obviously, they had other injuries that helped move him to the forefront, but clearly they are reaping the benefits of him being this unique and being this ready to perform in this situation. Now, it helped too that he had, gobs and gobs of run support. He could pitch in a very comfortable situation as he, after the first couple innings. And we can flip it over to the Yankees' shortcomings here in a second. But it was the perfect combination, and all the scenes of him embracing and understanding what he had done, and seeing his parents there, like it was so cool for a dude that is just barely removed from being drafted. And it's easy to, we've seen a lot of guys go straight to the big leagues. I retweeted something from JJ Cooper. We've talked about this, how it's like, man, these guys are just showing up. If you draft the right guy from college, he can make a difference very quickly. This is, of course, a best case scenario in so many respects, and you just you can't say enough about what he did. And you have to think about, with Schlittler, you wonder, okay, are we going to see him again in Game 4? With Yesavage, just wondering when we could see him again and what that would look like is really exciting.
Playoff debuts like this for youngsters remind me of I was single in New York for like 2 years, and I never really had this moment when I was trying to date. It was like, I cannot wait to see that person again. Like, you on a first date, right? And you're like, we hit it off. Like, I can't, when do I get to see you again? That's how I feel about Trey Yesavage right now. I'm like, when do I get to see this again?
Yeah, it's true. But now Jake did not find that, and that's why he's married to his high school girlfriend. Which is fine. Hey, that worked out. But in this case, I think that is a good analogy, because it's like, I don't want to wait till Game 5 on short rest. Like, I don't really know what the next time we would see him would be. He only threw, so he's got a no-hitter through 5 1/3. He gets pulled with 78 pitches because the Blue Jays are up by 1 billion runs. And John Schneider's like, all right, well, we don't need to show them any more Trey Yesavage. Like, he proved his point. Let's take him out. We don't need to show them
any more Trey Yesavage or any of our important relievers. And that sort of backfires as the Yankees stage a little mini comeback, put some runs on the board, end up having to go to Mason Fluharty to work out of some trouble.
Varland and Dominguez both pitched.
Varland and Dominguez. Hoffman does not pitch. He threw in Game 1. Let's just touch on the Yankees now. Hard to blame them. Like, Yesavage, it was just so good. The problem with this game is that the pitching didn't keep it close enough for the offense to have a shot late, right? Like, they scored 7 runs. It was perfectly legitimate offensive showing. But Will Warren not being able to keep it close after Fried didn't have his best stuff, like that really, I'm sure, stings. I think I put this in my story. This is the 72nd time in the DS era that a team has gone up 2-0. All right. How many times do you think a team came back down 2-0?
I mean, I don't know the exact number, but I know because they put it up as soon as the game ends on the screen. Which is, I believe it is I'm answering the opposite of your question, which is that 89%, I believe, of teams that go up 2-0 go on to win. Which is a pretty comfortable number.
Only 8.
Yeah.
No team has come back from a 2-0 DS deficit since the 2017 Yankees went down 2-0 against the Guardians. I believe that was a game we watched with Jason Concepcion at a bar in Brooklyn. I don't know if you remember this. With,
yeah, I remember doing that. I do not remember what game we were watching, but yes, the timing of that makes sense.
Anyway, so like this is going to be really tough. Now, look, the Yankees do have Carlos Rodon going at home in Game 3, who was very solid in his first postseason start. This is why the Blue Jays went out and got Shane Bieber, right? And for the Blue Jays, like, tomorrow really is like the game I think they should take care of business, because then they lose the starting pitching advantage a little bit. At least in Game 4, where you're going to have Schlittler against, like, bullpen game Eric Lauer. I think.
I don't
if
know.
It goes to 4.
Because Scherzer's not even on the roster.
No, Scherzer is not on the
if
roster.
I recall. Yeah.
And
so
so then game
I
5
don't
would
know what
probably
that would
be
look like.
Kevin Gausman against short rest Max Fried. Could this series go back to Toronto? I think it totally could. But the Blue Jays have just such a commanding advantage right now. And I saw some tweet online, and we'll take a break. It was like Aaron Judge has a 1044 OPS, but in the playoffs, but he's got to step up in the big moments. It's like yeah, but like he's hitting singles.
Yeah,
but
I mean, like I think
is this
listen, like
let's say the Yankees lose game 3. If the Yankees lose game 3, it will be about Judge, because everything is always about Judge, because he is the captain and one of the best players of a generation and the greatest Yankee to never win a ring. He's already passed Mattingly in that regard. But like, can you hang this on him when you allow 10 runs in game 1 and 13 in game 2?
I see what you're getting at. I don't totally disagree, but that inning is what hurts the most. That bases loaded with Judge up and nobody out. Like, that is, you don't want to zoom in too much on one at bat in a game 1. But when you consider how non-competitive the rest of the entire series was, because for that, you have that, and then you have the contrast, which is Vlad hitting the grand slam to make it 9-0, right? So now that's against Will Warren. There's different circumstances, and Gausman made a good pitch. And did he make a good pitch? I mean, he set it up well because of the rest of the at bat, but that was not a chase that you're used to seeing Judge doing, and he made him look silly. I mean, that's what splitters do, ironically, for 2 days in a row. But that's why it does feel like it falls on Judge to some degree. Now Stanton also struck out in that inning as well, but that's the inning where it feels like you could have changed the direction of the series, and instead you have historic levels of blowouts. I mean, I think the Blue Jays setting a record for the most runs over the first 2 postseason games for any team ever to start a playoff run. And it's by far, I think, the first time the Yankees have allowed 10 runs in consecutive playoff games in their franchise history, this is another funny thing about the playoffs, is that for almost every other franchise, when you hear first blank in franchise history, in playoff history, it doesn't really mean much, because most teams haven't actually been to the postseason that often. So like, it was the first Blue Jays grand slam in postseason history, which is cool, but like, that's not that many games. But when you hear what the Yankees are doing, this is what made Schlittler so amazing, right? When you're doing things that have never happened in Yankees playoff history, in this case in the wrong direction, which is allowing 10 runs in consecutive games, we're dealing with some, clearly things are going very, very, very wrong. And that's why it's hard to feel super good about them going back to the Bronx. But they are talented enough to make this interesting. And once again, Carlos is going to have to show up, and what an opportunity for Shane Bieber. I mean, they purposefully flipped him and Yesavage so that he would be on the road and, a veteran more comfortable going into the Bronx and performing there, whereas Yesavage could kind of build off that home crowd. Clearly, that first part worked. We'll see how Bieber does.
Last thing before we take a break. Dalton Varsho, 4 for 5 with 2 doubles and 2 home runs yesterday. Just kind of felt like malpractice if we didn't say his name out loud in this segment.
I mean, what a season for Dalton Varsho, who dealt with some injuries. This dude slugged .548 this season with some of the best center field defense in the league. He hit 20 homers in 71 games. Amazing. So he is a very important part of that entire team, not just, offense. Yeah. And especially when he's facing righties, he is dangerous. All right. You will be there in the Bronx, I assume. Yes. For game 3. All right. So we will hear from Jake on Wednesday. Will the Yankees season be over or not? All right. We're going to take a break. When we return, we head out west for the Mariners and the Tigers.
And welcome back to Baseball Barbacast. Grab a tissue, dry your eyes, let the tears flow. Because the Seattle Mariners, that stumbling, bumbling goofball of a franchise, an institution of woe for so long, last night, for the first time since 2001, emerged victorious from a home playoff game. Legitimately unbelievable, legitimately emotional, just fantastic stuff. People be like, oh, this is the Mariners World Series. You know what? You shut up, okay? They could lose the next 2 games in Detroit and the season would be a failure. And yet the memories, the moment, the feeling of Julio Rodriguez stroking that RBI double in the 8th inning against the Tigers will live on forever because it was that cool. Let's review the first game of the series. A real back and forth affair. Kerry Carpenter hits his 5th home run against George Kirby in 11 plate appearances, which is ridiculous. Carpenter remains very dangerous against right-handed pitching. There's a Julio homer in the 1st inning. The Carpenter one makes it 2-1. The Mariners tie it up. It goes to extras. Carlos Vargas allows a run in the top of the 11th, I believe on a Zach McKinstry RBI single, and Detroit wins 3-2. Anything you want to focus on in the first game?
Well, yeah, I mean, you mentioned Julio. Julio shows up in game 1. You know, he hits that homer, the first run that they've scored because of that 18-inning nightmare against the Astros in game 3 in 2022, where the Mariners didn't even score. They had just been waiting to score a run. Forget the win, just trying to score a run. Julio homers in the 4th. And then he drives in the run later to tie the game in the 6th. But both of these bullpens were just outrageous. And these offenses, besides Julio and Cal go 6 for 10. The rest of the Mariners go 0 for 28. That is not going to get the job done, folks. And, you know, we mentioned earlier that the Blue Jays winning the Kevin Gausman against Luis Gil was kind of like that's got to happen. The Mariners could not seize on the advantage of George Kirby against rookie Troy Melton, who Troy Melton had just gotten shelled against Cleveland in relief. I think Troy Melton's really good, and I think he's one of Detroit's best starters, and it makes sense that they threw him out there, and he looked pretty good for 4 innings. But still, Kirby, should he have even been left to face Carpenter a 3rd time? Probably not. Carpenter makes him pay, and while the Mariners bullpen basically showed up until Vargas, so did the Tigers. You know, after Rafael Montero-y inning, I mean, Holton, Canely, Finnegan, Will Vest, Bulletproof Vest, who I must remind folks was given away by the Tigers. The Mariners took him in the Rule 5. Will Vest's rookie season was putting up a 6 ERA with the Mariners in 2021. He got returned to the Tigers and has since become one of the best.
The Mariners said thanks, but no thanks. You could take Will Vest back.
They were like, this is not good enough for us. And now he's obviously become Bulletproof Vest in Detroit. And then Cater Montero comes in for the save in the 11th. And
throwing shit.
That's the thing. I mean, it was brutal. I mean, this is also part of what made the Game 2 triumph so special, is because it felt like it was all going to go wrong, especially as we go into Game 2. We've got Tarek Skubal on the mound. I mean, again, the prospect of like you're already down 1-0 and now you got to deal with Skubal. Okay, you were already maybe mentally thinking, they're not going to beat Skubal for a 3rd time this season. You got to at least take Game 1. Of course, remember the whole context of this that we haven't even mentioned yet because we didn't know when we last talked is that Brian Woo's not on the roster. Brian Woo's still dealing with his pec injury, and so they had to go with Castillo and Kirby in the first 2 games. They trusted their kind of comfort pitching at home compared to Logan Gilbert, who they trust more on the road. Logan Gilbert, their best pitcher without Woo. Gilbert's going to go Game 3. But we get Kirby in Game 1, we get Castillo in Game 2, and in Game 2, it's Castillo versus Skubal. Castillo, no hits through 4 innings, but the command isn't great. The pitch count's getting up there. And Dan Wilson essentially gets a mulligan with Kerry Carpenter coming up for a 3rd time against Castillo, and he's like, we ain't doing this again. Runners on the corners. Gabe Spire comes in, strikes out Kerry Carpenter because that's what Gabe Spire does. And then it kind of settles into a close game, except for 2 enormous swings, courtesy of Jorge Polanco. Jake, I don't know how closely you were watching this game last night, but I want to throw it back to you before I kind of give my little Jorge Polanco monologue. But what were you kind of feeling watching the first 7 innings of this game?
Oh, can't wait to see how the Mariners screw this up. You know, because I know you, and I know what you've seen, and you just expect sadness, and it's like the Metsiest thing, right? Like you just think it's going to go wrong, so you just wait for it to go wrong. Even as Polanco is, giving Tarek Skubal a swirly, you're like, man, well, I hope they can keep the Tigers' offense at bay. But go ahead and talk about Polanco, because he has had such a fascinating season where there are times where he looks just awful. Like he'll be like just an unusable hitter for 3 weeks, and then there are 3 weeks where he's, Barry Bonds.
Yeah. I mean, we got to go back a little farther than that. I mean, when they got Jorge Polanco from the Twins ahead of the 2024 season, it was like perfect fit. I mean, this is exactly the kind of player that they have been looking for this lineup. And last year, because Polanco was essentially playing through a bum knee for the entire year, he stunk. And it was just kind of like by June, you were just like, well, this didn't work. This is incredibly disappointing for the player, for the team. And it sucked. And it wasn't, you knew he was injured. He was grinding through it. And it was just like, you can't really be mad at him because he's still playing. But it was so hard to watch. He goes into free agency and you're just like, well, he's clearly not going to get paid. But also, does he want to come back and try and hit in Seattle? He gets knee surgery in the offseason. He's kind of just off the radar. No one's really thinking about him. We get these reports in January. He's like, I'm going to be good to go, fully ready for spring training. The Astros are interested. The Yankees are interested. And he ends up back with the Mariners, which was shocking. I mean, I think that the fact that he wanted to go back there and that they wanted to kind of try again made sense that they would maybe want to try again at a relatively low cost. But it was amazing that he really wanted to stick with this team. And he comes out in April and is one of the best hitters in baseball. But to your point, then he just forgets how to hit. He's one of the worst hitters in baseball in May and June. He's dealing with an oblique injury, never goes on the IL. He can't hit from the right side for like 6 weeks. Okay, this is a switch hitter who's historically been much better left-handed. He can't hit from the right side for 6 weeks. Eventually, he comes back. He's fantastic in September. And now, for the first time in his career, he hits 2 homers in a game right-handed, and he does it against Tarek Skubal. He crushes a slider that Skubal hangs over the plate 2-0 in the 4th, and then his 7th, he battles him for 6-7 pitches and just turns around 99 and smashes it over the left field fence. And first batter to take Skubal deep twice in the same game since Paul Goldschmidt in 2021, which is basically just like the first batter to take this Tarek Skubal deep twice in the same game, because Tarek Skubal in 2021 was a home run machine. That dude gave up 35 tanks in 2021. Amazing. He was not the same pitcher. And what a moment for Polanco. It is so cool. And he's also just a huge part of why this has been one of the best offenses in baseball this season, is that he's been doing his part in the middle to the bottom of the lineup.
March and April, 1226 OPS. May, 413 OPS. June, 582. And then he goes 888, 792, and 1015 in September. Really a fascinating season for him, but it looks like his work is going to be undone, all for naught, when in the 8th inning, Matt Brash comes in. Matt Brash in 2023 was one of the best relievers like we'd ever seen. He just pure dominance, and not that many people noticed because that Mariners team didn't make the playoffs and whatever. Gets hurt, comes back, and this year he's like 93% of what he was? But that 7% is a big percent sometimes. He, I believe he walked someone, right?
So he walks Glaber, which is obviously on him.
But there's a Glaber, right? Glaber has that wild take on a slider that's like 2 balls off the edge. He walks, strikes out Kerry Carpenter, and then you have just a brutal error from Josh Naylor, who just
I mean, it's just a straight flub. I mean, there's no way around it, as Riley Green just hits a grounder straight to him. And I think Naylor was thinking, okay, can I turn this double play? Instead, he just, miffs it, and now it's first and second with 1 out, and Spencer Torkelson coming up. And were you watching on the did you have sound on for this at bat? Because Pierzynski and Adam Wainwright in the booth are just like, so you're just going to throw him sliders, right? Like, you're just going to only throw him sliders because clearly that's all you need to do, and Spencer Torkelson is going to swing. And that's what the first 4 pitches was. He executes the slider perfectly, or almost perfectly 4 times. He gets it to 2 strikes, and then he tries to sneak a fastball by him for whatever reason, and Torque was late on it, I guess, but not late enough because he rips a double down the right field line to tie the game. And that's when it just felt like, all right, well, of course, And by the way, that's also the difference between Matt Brash a year ago or 2 years ago and Matt Brash now, is that pitch is 97 and not 99. He did that the fastball just doesn't have quite as much giddy up in the same way. Torkelson, who's been looking for that big hit for weeks. I mean, this is a guy that has come up short in huge spots over and over and over and over as the Tigers have, collapsed. And then even in the postseason, he's come up short in some big spots. But what a moment for Torque. And that felt like, all right, these Tigers, man, they're just going to do it. Like, they're going to do it. The Mariners just can't find a way. And then immediately after Brash gets out of the inning, Cal and Julio respond with consecutive doubles against Kyle Finnegan to retake the lead. What a moment for both of those guys, for them to show up against Finnegan, who they had seen in the exact same scenario the night earlier. They had seen that splitter. Cal destroys one. I think it was 111 exit velocity on that one. And then Julio, of course, ropes the go-ahead double. Munoz slams the door. Munoz has retired all 9 hitters he's faced now over these first couple games. And the Mariners claim a close 3-2 victory as the series shifts to Detroit, where I will be this week.
Oh, excited for you. I want to talk about Cry Guy.
Oh, tell me about it.
So during the in the aftermath of the Julio RBI knock, the camera pans to somebody in the crowd, Mariners fan crying, then receives a hug from the person standing next to him. This understandably goes, viral on the internet a little bit, and people are always like, man, this is so soft. The Mariners, this is like your World Series, man. Like Astros fans, like, can you believe this? Like, here's what, if you see this video and you see and you think like, oh, this is something to make fun of, I feel bad for you. You know what I see when I see this, Jordan? I see the rise and fall of Felix Hernandez. I see Jack Zarenzik. I see Dustin Ackley, right? I see Ichiro getting traded to the Yankees. I see the 18-inning game against the Astros. I see bad defenses and long nights and, money and time spent on a team that continually disappointed you. I see, scrolling through Lookout Landing. I see, just caring about something that doesn't love you back, right? And in this moment, this is this beautiful catharsis of this. This is emotional release. And if we as a society, not to make it bigger than it is, but I'm going to, if we as a society of fans feel able to get angry and riled up when things don't go well, right? Then we should be able to experience the unbridled joy when things do go well. And I know this is just one person in one moment, but I got emotional seeing that person get emotional, because if this means nothing, then what the hell are we all doing? Obviously, it's just sports, right? And it is not the real world, but if it makes you feel, then it is. And so I, this morning, am so genuinely happy for this person. And for all the Mariners fans who have endured and been forced to watch substandard baseball that did not pay their emotions and their commitment back. And so, huzzah for crying.
Yes. And I think now we'll do a bit of a mirror situation here, because it is very interesting when you think about how Mariners fans feel coming off of that win. They send them off to Detroit, right? Happy flight, as the players like to say. And they do not know when they will see them again, right? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Maybe it will be, if they don't, that's obviously incredibly disappointing. If they do, that or they could win the series in Detroit and then go into Toronto or go Yankee, whatever. There's a lot of different circumstances. They don't know when they're going to see them again. And I mentioned that sentiment as we think about the Tigers. And we mentioned this before the series, right? But think about how the Tigers fans felt as they got swept by the Atlanta Braves 2 weeks ago at home to conclude their home schedule in the regular season on an L7. Their
They have
last
not
home
won at
victory
home
coming on
on September
October
6th.
6th.
September 6th.
Oh, sorry. Yes, that's September. September 6th. September 6th against the White Sox was their last home victory, swept by Cleveland, swept by Atlanta. And when the Tigers left, not only were the players feeling this, but the fans were thinking like, when am I going to see you again? Will I see you again? What are we going to be feeling when I see at that point, they could have still won the division and hosted, in the first round, the wild card. That could have been possible.
They could have
been hosting the DS. They could have got the bye, right? There were so many possibilities in front of the Tigers fan base and the Tigers players. And now, after 2 weeks on the road, Tarek Skubal admitting that he ran out of socks and underwear. Relatable king. They're home. And they might not feel great about game 2, but they did win a game in Seattle, which was, of course, the goal. They have recaptured home field advantage, where it is now a best of 3, and they have 2 games at home. And I'm very excited to see how Comerica Park responds when I am there on Tuesday.
Tarek Skubal, my man, I know you haven't gotten paid the big bucks yet. No, you haven't gotten that an extension or a free agent contract. I think you are liquid enough financially to afford hotel laundry. I would just throw some of those in a bag. Like, look, is hotel laundry a bad investment financially? Yes. Like, it is not worth it. Or just walk to the laundromat in Seattle or Cleveland.
I don't think this is a matter
of
financial constraints. I think this is more of a timing, time management.
All I'm saying is
he said he did do laundry. He said that
okay.
He said that, or at least I think the clubbies did it for him. But I did see that report, I believe, from Cody Stavenhagen. But
look, I've been on the road for a week now, and I ran low, and I did what needed to be done. I got it done, and also like there should be someone on the Tigers whose whole job is to just do Tarek Skubal's laundry, respectfully. You know what I mean?
Well, if they can miraculously manage to extend him, maybe that will be part of his next long-term deal. Anyway, we will have Logan Gilbert against Jack Flaherty in Game 3, which will be on Tuesday afternoon. Forecast not looking great. I could see that start getting pushed back, but we will see how that goes. And then, it's a huge deal for Seattle because Game 4 might be Bryce Miller, maybe a bullpen game. I don't know. They haven't announced that yet. The Tigers, we know, will be Casey Mize in Game 4. So I'm very excited to head up to Detroit and watch those games, of course. We will see how that goes. All right, we're going to take a break. When we return, there's a whole other league we got to talk about? Oh, my goodness. All right, we'll be right back on Baseball Barbacast.
Welcome back to Baseball Barbacast. I am currently in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, a city that, if you ask its residents, has no sports teams in it. On this Monday morning of doom and gloom, the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles bungled a very bizarre game yesterday to the Denver Broncos at home for their first loss of the season. And of course, the Phillies coughed up an embarrassing lead of their own on Saturday evening against the Dodgers. And when you walk around Philadelphia this time of year, you see a lot of sports shirts. This was the case, Jordan, I'm sure, in Pittsburgh. There are certain cities that just like wear sports stuff more than others. And Philadelphia they love sports shirts. This morning when I walked around Center City to get a coffee, I saw decidedly fewer sports shirts than I did a couple of days ago when I first got here. And that is because the vibes around town are not great. The Los Angeles Dodgers took Game 1 of the National League Division World Series by the score of 5-3. I was at this one. I'll recap it quickly. Shohei Ohtani's playoff pitching debut. The man who has done it all, lived it all, accomplished yet another first. He surrenders a 3 spot in the second inning. Kind of surprising. There's a walk to Alec Boehm, which is how all great memories start. Brandon Marsh single up the middle. JT Realmuto cranks a middle fastball in the backside gap for a triple, scores 2 runs, comes around and scores on a Harrison Bader sac fly. And the Phillies go up 3-0, and Sanchez is kind of cruising through the middle innings. Ohtani gets his start back on the rails. Sanchez runs into trouble in the 6th inning, where he allows 2 runs on a Kike Hernandez double down the line. Rob Thompson, Phillies skipper, goes out, yanks him. Bullpen, David Robertson gets out of that inning. He returns to start the 7th, and that's where things get ugly. Robertson allows 2 base runners. In comes Matt Strahm. He retires Ohtani and retires Betts 2 down, leaves a fastball middle up, elevated to Teoscar Hernandez, who gets his arms extended and hits one deep, gone, and in the seats for a 3-run go-ahead blast. The Dodgers then get creative with their pitching, bringing in Tyler Glasnow for the 7th. Glasnow gets 2 outs in the 8th. Alex Vesia comes in, the only actual honest-to-God reliever who pitched in this game for the Dodgers. He gets 1 out in the 8th, and then Roki Sasaki comes in and gets the 9th. Dodgers win 5-3.
Yeah, this was a stunner. Seemed like a hell of a game. I was not watching this super closely, but just watching back and kind of processing this box score, I mean, there's some pretty big takeaways, right? I think for the Dodgers to pull out a game where Ohtani and Betts go 0 for 9 at the plate, Freeman doesn't do a ton. You know, Teo is looking overwhelmed against Sanchez and then pulls up that big swing against Strahm. And, you know, while the pitchers, listen, Ohtani's a damn good pitcher. Glasnow, damn good pitcher. Vesia, right? I know that was one batter against Edmundo Sosa. But it's hard not to just look at the Phillies again and be like, well, it's not a lot of offense. You know, you had that 1 inning against Ohtani, and other than that, it just wasn't much. Now, that's credit to the talent of the Dodgers pitchers because, yeah, Ohtani, holy crap, as bad as he looked offensively in this game, he seemed to get better as the game went on the mound. And then, wow, the fact that we've got Roki Sasaki now as this late inning weapon was something that we sort of saw at the end of the regular season. But for them to just throw him right in there and say, hey, dude, go get this save because we literally trust none of our relievers we've been going to all season is both exciting about what Roki could be for the rest of this month and also like, wow, how are they going to get through this month if they trust so few of their pitchers?
What I'm about to say sounds like really, really silly. If I may.
Yeah, please.
Ohtani was throwing so many fastballs down the middle of the plate. And yes, they were at 100 miles an hour. And yes, there are 7 secondary pitches or whatever the hell that you need to keep an eye on as well. I understand. I'm not saying just hit the ball, right? But he was piping a lot of heat right down the middle. I mean, that's why Realmuto's swing was really smart because he didn't try and do too much. Hell yeah. And he just, took it the other way. But Bryce Harper got a bunch of heaters down Broadway and did not do a lot with it. Now, yes, they were all like 100.2. I understand. But this was a bad offensive showing from the Phillies. The way that the Dodgers used their bullpen was very compelling. Tyler Glasnow, who is probably going to start game 4 if there is one, using him in relief. He looked good. Roki Sasaki looked good in the 9th. I thought it was interesting that Dave Roberts, he was a little hesitant, it felt like, to use Alex Vesia. He let Glasnow face Harper and Schwarber in the 8th inning instead of bringing in Vesia, which is maybe instructive moving forward of how Roberts is going to operate. But I mean, really, I'll just quickly from the Philly side of things, this is just a deja vu all over again. Right now, it was a little bit different than some of their other anemic postseason offensive performances because this was not them chasing outside the zone, right? Against Arizona in 23 and the Mets last year, it was just, whiffing at things in the other batter's box. This was being unable to square up balls that were in the strike zone. How important is that difference? I don't know. But it puts them in the hole entering game 2 tonight which is going to be Jesus Luzardo for the Phillies against Blake Snell for the Dodgers.
Yeah, and I'm curious still what this is going to be true in every Dodgers game. Just what is the roadmap to 27 outs? I'm super curious. I keep mentioning his name, but I'm really curious where Emmett Sheehan fits into this puzzle. Is that someone that they would expect to maybe, if they're just not going to go to any of their regular relievers, are they going to ask Sheehan to go a couple innings? They got this off day because of just, the random nature of the scheduling, where this year the DS and the National League side gets that extra off day. So is Roki going to be ready to roll again in this game? We'll see. But it's a huge opportunity. I mean, this is a really fun pitching matchup. It is just because of how talented these pitchers are, and they're both really good lefties, but also as new characters for these two teams, right? We've seen a lot of these players on both sides perform in the postseason for them on multiple occasions, but this is an opportunity for both of these left-handers to kind of show their fan bases like, oh yeah, this is why we got you for this game, really, and this game is not necessarily going to determine everything, but certainly if you're the Phillies at home and how that game unfolded in game one, you're really going to need some big time stuff from Luzardo there.
Funny moment or notable moment in before the game that I wanted your take on. So they do the full rosters, right? They announced the full rosters for the home team, which included Zach Wheeler, who got an awesome round of applause, not on the roster. Included Garrett Stubbs, big round of applause, not on the roster. However, Jordan Romano, who's not on the roster and has been around all year, did not get introduced because I think they were afraid he'd get booed.
What? Oh no,
I'm pretty sure
that's.
I mean, that has to be why, right? I mean, he's around. He was like on the team all year.
Very weird.
Did not get introduced.
Did they exclude others, and it was more about that they wanted to introduce Stubbs and Wheeler? Maybe. I don't know. Wasn't there. I wasn't watching.
Jordan Romano made 49 appearances this year.
No, I know. Usually, when you're doing your first game of the postseason, you basically introduce everyone that played for you if they're still around. That's very common. So you would think he would have been introduced. I don't know. That's unfortunate. That is definitely unfortunate.
It felt like an outlier, is all I'm saying. It's usually
that's fair.
Pretty funny. Also notable, Harrison Bader left this game with an injury. It seems like he's going to be okay to go tonight. Now, which is important. It'll be interesting to see how the Phillies arrange their outfield, but I think it'll probably be Castellanos in right, Bader in center, and Marsh in left, with the left-handed Snell on the mound. They'll go with Castellanos, who did not start in game one. He had two terrible at-bats after Bader left. I mean, not really surprised. He's been the worst player in baseball this year. But yeah, man, I mean, you could feel the sky falling here in Philadelphia. I'll just put it like that.
All righty. Well, we will see where this series goes from here. All right, there is another series. If you're a Brewers fan, we've given you a lot of love this season, rightfully so.
Slighted.
You earned it. We apologize. The reality is this is the Russ Dorsey Bowl, and Russ Dorsey is not here for us to give us the recap. And the other thing is the game stunk, and that's a credit to you. The Brewers came out. They allow a leadoff home run to Michael Busch in the first inning. To Matthew Busch, yes, sorry. I apologize, Matthew.
Hey, very quickly on that, do you think that when Carl Ravitch messed that up, he was thinking about former Rangers pitcher Matt Bush?
I had that. I know I did not mention that. After we recorded that episode, I was like, ooh, I should have made a Matt Bush reference. So Michael Busch goes yard, but then, Matthew Busch goes yard, but then Michael Boyd has a tough one for the Cubs as the Brewers score 6 runs in the first inning. We have some rare Chicago defensive flubs, which does not happen often. A error from Nico Horner, which if you're getting an error from Nico Horner, things are not going your way. And from there, the Brewers just cruise. And it was kind of a funny final box score where you had the Cubs hit 3 solo homers. It's like, look at us, we can barrel the ball. Brewers have 0 homers, but of course scored 9 runs on 13 hits, and they were in control. Freddie Peralta was good, and they did not have to sweat this one very much. So Brewers taking care of business once again, kind of just holding serve. Credit to them. Like, Brewers fans should be feeling awesome. But we only have this one game to talk about, and so that's why we're going short on it. And now we have game 2, where it's Shota Imanaga against Aaron Ashby, who will be presumably opening. Aaron Ashby threw an inning and a third in game 1. Aaron Ashby
Who's he
has
going to be
been a very
opening
good
for?
reliever. I would certainly hope that it is our man Quinn Priester.
Priester!
We don't know. We will see how this goes. Pat Murphy, maybe he has something else up his sleeve, but it sure seems like it would be Quinn Priester. And yeah, I mean, Cubs gotta get back in it. Imanaga, who was opened for in the last round, and that didn't go super great. He's going to have to show up and give the Cubs a big start. And they're just going to, not give up 6 runs in the first inning. That's going to kind of be the bar to clear for the Cubs to feel good getting this series back to Chicago. But listen, Brewers, like, they were chilling in this one. It was, I mean, similar to Toronto, but they've only done it once instead of twice so far. But good for them to come out and be like, yes, no, we were the best team in baseball this year, and we're going to act like it. And the Cubs have to kind of figure it out if they want to make this interesting.
It really was a perfect encapsulation of the way that these two teams operate, right? 3 solo homers for the Cubs, 3 runs. Brewers don't hit a single homer, score 9. Like, there you go.
Great.
That's it. That's all
in
you
your
need to know.
face, Lance Brozdowski. Who cares about my barrel rate?
Yeah, barrel this. Say hello to my. These are my. I'm holding up my fists for those of you listening on audio. Say hello to my best friends, Caleb and Durbin. Ooh.
Yes, Durbin with the 2 RBIs. Look at our man Caleb Durbin driving in runs in the
Amazing
postseason. What a world!
What a thing!
So happy for him. Anyway, so Brewers feeling good. We will see how they come out in game 2. Again, you can read Russ Dorsey's words. He's got it covered at Yahoo Sports. Jake Mintz, we did it. We are going to end this podcast and keep it under an hour, which we have not been able to do recently. But I'm going to stop talking so that we can ensure that that is the case. Thank you for podcasting with me. Thank you to Ingrid Rosas and Andrew Hartz for producing this episode of Baseball Barbacast. I'm heading to Detroit tomorrow. You are in Philadelphia tonight, in New York tomorrow. We will be back on Wednesday, folks. How many of these series will be over? I guess only one of them can end, but we'll see what happens. Jake Mintz, final thoughts before we say goodbye.
Call me Trey Yesavage because I'm over the top.
Hey, see you on Wednesday.
Hey.